High-Speed 2 isn't about speed. I'm sure you know that if you've been watching train videos on YouTube, but I'll explain it as quick as I can anyway. The main railway between Britain's most important cities is the West Coast Main Line. There's also the Chiltern Main Line, but that's very hilly and isn't electrified, and mostly runs commuter services into London. The issue is that the West Coast Main Line has lots of traffic on it. Fast trains directly connecting cities, regional trains of various speeds making stops in smaller towns, and lots of freight trains. But there's only 4 tracks, or even 2 in places. These trains all run at different speeds, so can't get too close together. This means waiting a while after a slow train left before letting a fast train leave. And we aren't running as many trains as possible, which is bad because lots of people want to travel between these cities, and therefore tickets get expensive. High-Speed 2 builds a dedicated set of tracks for the fast trains between big cities, taking them off the busy West Coast Main Line. This means more regional trains can run, and all the small towns get better service, and the big cities get more service too, and a slight time saving. But more importantly, more freight can run, which is good for everyone, and that's High-Speed 2. But as we know, things aren't really going to plan. Somehow money is being spent on insulating churches, renovating listed drinking fountains, and a bat tunnel where there's no bats. So Sky TV man cut the top off of it, just to make sure things were really bad. Can't have high-speed rail in one of the UK's most important cities. Well, that sucks. But anyway, that's not the point of the video. I'm talking about a different part of the route that was cut that you probably haven't heard of, and why it may have been quite important. There were originally plans for this branch coming off near Uxbridge and having a station just in front of Terminal 5A. There were also this plan to make it a loop, but all of this quietly disappeared about 10 years ago, likely due to the cost. The current High-Speed 2 route looks like this: Birmingham down to Old Oak Common and Euston, hopefully. So if you want to get to Heathrow, you'll need to get off the high-speed train at Old Oak Common and get onto the Heathrow Express upstairs, or try and get onto the very busy Elizabeth line. All with heavy bags, unless you sold them to be able to afford your Heathrow Express ticket. With the current plan, accessing Heathrow isn't ideal, but why do these other cities need to be connected to Heathrow anyway? High-Speed 2 was meant to increase capacity on existing railways, but it could have also increased capacity at Heathrow? Right, time to talk about Heathrow for a minute. Heathrow is the busiest airport in Europe by passenger numbers, being an important connection between North America, Europe, and the Middle East, and is also Britain's main airport. However, Heathrow isn't some huge airport, and only has 2 runways. It actually has a lot of capacity issues, but I was looking around and there's quite a few domestic flights, up to 7 a day to Manchester, 4 or 5 a day to Newcastle, and a whopping 11 flights each to Glasgow and Edinburgh daily. These are all trips that should really be done by rail, and actually don't even make money for airlines most of the time, as it's harder to sell things like first class. The reason they exist is for connecting passengers. No sane person would pull out a mortgage on their Heathrow Express ticket and willingly go through airport security, instead of just going to King's Cross or Euston. But that's exactly the problem. If I've gotten off of a flight from Lagos, it's much easier to get a connecting flight to Manchester that you made as one booking with the airline than to try getting the train into London, change onto the underground, get into King's Cross or Euston, find your train and get that up north, probably all with heavy bags. That's why these flights exist. The underlying issue is that every train from Heathrow goes into London. You can't get a train to any other city. I think you can see where this is going. High-Speed 2, as we know, was meant to go to the north, so if it had a stop at Heathrow, passengers would be able to get off their flight and easily get onto a high-speed train going to the other major cities in the UK directly. Even without the part to Manchester, trains can still join the conventional network at Birmingham and still directly serve these other cities. Except for Newcastle maybe. We'd have needed the Leeds branch of High-Speed 2 for that, but it actually gets even better. Airlines are usually part of alliances, where they'll make it really easy for passengers to connect between airlines if one of them doesn't offer a specific route, so that all the airlines can benefit from each other's networks. And actually in 2022, Deutsche Bahn joined Star Alliance. So let's say you wanted to go from Chicago to Dusseldorf. There isn't a direct flight, but you can make one booking between these cities. You'd fly from Chicago to Frankfurt, then directly get onto a train from Frankfurt to Dusseldorf at the airport with the same ticket. And Eurostar's looking to do the same with SkyTeam, and this probably could have been done with HS2, freeing up slots for the important long-haul flights. And this is my opinion now. We all know that Heathrow wants to build a third runway and a new terminal to go with that, but has been struggling to do so for a while. However, it looks like this will finally happen. They've definitely got the money to do this, and are also interested in making it easy for people to access the airport, as that'll mean more people fly through Heathrow and buy Pringles tubes for £9. Yes, I've seen that at Heathrow, but maybe we should give them the option to build this branch. Sort of similar to how Heathrow funded the extension of the Piccadilly line to Terminal 5 when that got built. It would make perfect sense to integrate High Speed 2 into this new terminal right from the start, especially while it's all going to be a building site. But anyway, that's just what I think, and I guess that's all for today, and I'll see you next time.